Here's our Learning Target 3 explained. This is focused on feedback loops. And that's kind of a weird name right out the gate, but the idea here with feedback loops is what we're observing within a system is kind of a cause and effect. We're trying to figure out, well, what happens, and then what does it make that, what change does it make? And does that change either circle back and have the same impact, or does it circle back and have a different impact? So we're looking at the direction of the result, where it goes. And we've termed these two feedback loops as either positive or negative. Now what's tricky is that these feedback loops are not associated with a feeling or a quality of the outcome. So that means positive does not always mean good, and negative does not always mean bad. So we can't base the type of loop off the quality of the result, good or bad. We're basing it off our two key words you might remember from our explore: extreme and balance. So pop over to the right hand side right away and just take some time to observe. So you're observing what is happening to A and B as this system continues. So make an observation here about what you notice going on with A, and what does that do then to B, and what does that do to A, and so on. So what is happening with these little gray boxes, if you will, over time? And same thing with the negative, making that same observation. What's A's impact to B? What's B's impact to A? So we're simply making observations about what we see happening within each of these systems. And maybe you can even connect one of our key words right away, extreme or balanced, to one of these systems. So let's get our definitions in. This first one here was the positive loop, and this happens when we see a chain reaction of our events going to the extreme, where they're reinforcing each other or essentially accelerating together. And they can accelerate, remember, in either direction. We see in this animation here them accelerating to the maximum. They get bigger, right? B gets bigger, so then A gets bigger, so then B gets bigger, so then A gets bigger. So we're seeing them reinforce each other, working to their highest high. But it's also a possibility of a positive feedback loop getting low as possible, where we see them shrink, 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 and continue down. With the negative feedback loop, again, we're observing the chain reactions, but here our observation leads us to see them stabilizing. So looking at these changes, we see A impact B to make it bigger, whereas B says, oh, A, you should shrink down. So A comes back and says, well, you should shrink down. And then B works back to make it the same size. So they're working to either offset themselves or essentially keep them balanced, where neither one is getting to the extreme, big or small. So we have another test here for you, or a trial, right? On the right hand side, we're trying to determine of these two, what's positive and negative. So think about those visuals we just had in your mind. So this is your bank account. Got the bank account grows, we get more interest, so I get more bank account, which means I get more interest. And as I'm saying it, I'm keep saying more, 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 right? I'm increasing those amounts. Where here, when I'm with my body temperature, I look at my terms here. I've got body temperature rises, body temperature drops. Body temperature rises, body temperature drops. Rises, drops. So I'm thinking about the bank account building to the extreme, leading me to that positive, where the negative adjusts it to stay stabilized. And again, a few more examples for you to think about here on the side. Mario Kart and rugby were both part of our reading, so maybe you remember the answers there. Thermostat. That's going to be similar to your body temperature. And finally, the greenhouse effect. We know that rugby is that positive because the team gets the ball back every time they score, so their score can escalate or go to the extreme. And same thing with the greenhouse effect. The more carbon dioxide we have, the higher the temperature gets, which evaporates more materials, puts more gases in the air, making it warmer, and it just continues on that same cycle. Whereas Mario Kart and the thermostat are thinking negatives because they're both working to keep things balanced, both the temperature in your home to stay balanced as well as the players on the track to stay balanced. So finally, you've got this last visual to help you with the summary question. Think back to last unit and how might global changes in ice make a positive feedback loop. So you're seeing those steps over here on the side. Work those into your 2 or 3 sentences explaining what's going on at the poles. That simply increases, right, to the extreme, the amount of ice we have or sometimes don't have. As always, as you finish up your summary question, you should be able to crush out learning target 3.